From the Pep Radio Newsroom, these are the stories we are covering at this hour. As of September 2024, and it draws to a close fairly soon, so too will the doors of Cattivo, a Lawrenceville music venue that has been a fixture in Pittsburgh's queer and underground music scenes for decades. For many in the LGBTQ plus community, Cattivo wasn't just another bar or venue, it was home. This, alongside other closures in recent years, raises serious questions about the future of independent venues in Pittsburgh, the city's cultural diversity, and the safe spaces for queer people. While Cattivo may be primarily known as a music venue now, specializing in punk, metal, and indie acts, its history is deeply entwined with Pittsburgh's queer nightlife. In the early 2000s, Cattivo was an unofficial lesbian bar. It became a rare haven for LGBTQ plus women in a city that has always struggled to maintain dedicated spaces for queer women. For years, it was a place where the queer community gathered for drinks, pool games, and the occasional flirt, fostering a sense of belonging and visibility. The bar's unofficial status didn't diminish its importance to those who called it home. Cattivo was an official stop on the old Pride bar crawls that used to take place annually during Pride. Cattivo embraced its role as a music venue, creating a new kind of safe space for the city's underground music scene. Acts like Titus Andronicus, The Queers, and Lydia Lunch performed on its stages, solidifying its reputation as a key stop for indie, punk, and metal tours. What made Cattivo special wasn't just the music, but the atmosphere it fostered, a grungy, accepting space where the queer, alternative, and underground scenes intersected. Events like goth nights and drag shows coexisted alongside hardcore and metal festivals like Skullfest. This hybrid identity made it a vital part of Pittsburgh's cultural fabric. Cattivo's closure is part of a larger trend. Pittsburgh has lost at least 10 small venues in the last decade, and these closures have hurt the independent music scene. The pandemic exacerbated these challenges, but the root issues existed long before. Rising rents, gentrification, and economic pressures have made it increasingly difficult for small venues to survive, especially those serving niche communities. For the LGBTQ plus community, the loss of a venue like Cattivo represents more than just losing a concert space. It's losing a place where queer people could gather, connect, and feel safe. It's a reminder of how fragile queer spaces can be. On August 30th, 2024, former President Donald Trump claimed at a Moms for Liberty press conference that schools are pushing transgender youth through surgeries without parental consent. He alleged this occurs on campus in the span of a few days. And this wasn't just a one-off claim either. He repeated it multiple times in places like Wisconsin and Arizona during campaign rallies. According to LGBTQ Nation, minors scarcely receive any form of gender-affirming surgery. In 2019, a study found that only 85 minors in the United States received any form of gender-affirming surgery at all. And of these minors, 96.4% received some type of top surgery, most commonly breast reductions. Almost all these surgeries were conducted on minors between the ages of 15 and 17, and none were performed on minors under the age of 12. The same study found that cisgender boys with gynecomastia, a condition that leads to unwanted breast development, were more likely to get gender-affirming surgeries at a rate of 146. This low prevalence is part due to the stringent guidelines protecting minors from receiving any type of care, especially that of surgeries. The World Professional Association for Transgender Health is currently the leading organization advising transgender healthcare around the globe, including here in the United States. Their latest rendition of their standards of care, the SOC 8th edition, details what types of care are deemed acceptable for minors to receive. To be clear, no such surgeries are done on those who have not started puberty, with instead social transition being the primary goal. They only recommend starting these conversations when children approach puberty so they can have a few years to prepare for what type of interventions they may want. The SOC 8th edition doesn't mention schools as decision makers when it comes to trans youth's bodies. And it's not just the WPATH but most mainstream medical organizations, including the American Medical Association, the Endocrine Society, the American College of Physicians, the American Psychological Association, the World Medical Association, and many other organizations that support affirming trans youth's gender identities. Notably, none of these organizations mention schools providing or facilitating gender-affirming care, and many often refer to the W path for more information regarding this care. Thus, Donald Trump's claim that schools are conducting some form of surgeries on youth is simply erroneous and false. President Joe Biden said in a recent interview, while reflecting on LGBTQ plus activists who have fought against violence and discrimination, quote, most of the openly gay people that have worked with me, that I have worked with, the one advantage they have is they tend to have more courage than most people have. Biden reportedly expressed admiration for the men and women who broke the back of the prejudice, or began to break the back, starting with those who sparked the 1969 Stonewall Uprising. During the interview, Biden mentioned the many pro-LGBTQ plus actions his administration has taken, including signing the Respect for Marriage Act, appointing high-level out officials and judges, ending the anti-gay blood donation ban, establishing rules to protect LGBTQ plus kids in foster care, and issuing Title IX and Title VII rules to protect queer students and workers. However, Biden said there's still more to do to secure full LGBTQ plus equality. When a person can get same-sex married and show up at a restaurant and get thrown out of the restaurant because they're LGBTQ, that's wrong, he said. That's why we need the Equality Act. We need to pass it. So I'm going to be doing everything I can to take part of and help with the outside voices. And I hope my foundations that I will be setting back up will talk about equality across the board. The Equality Act would add gender identity and sexual orientation to federal civil rights protections, but to become law, it would need Republican support, at least in the Senate, where it needs 60 out of 100 votes to get past the filibuster. Biden also criticized Supreme Court Justice Clarence Thomas, who expressed interest in the nation's highest court possibly overturning its 2015 decision legalizing marriage rights for same-sex couples nationwide, calling Thomas's view just pure, simple prejudice. That's the news for now. Let's get back to the music here on PEP Radio.